everything right. I like this slide by Malcolm X. He says, I am black first, my sympathies are black, my allegiances are black, my objectives are black, but that does not mean that I am anti anything. I love people. This is my mother, Rita Price Williams, Austin. She was born Austin. She grew up in the projects of Chicago because of the building of the Dan Ryan Expressway in 1961. She and her family were forced to leave their home and they ended up in the projects. She went to McMurry. Did I say McMurry earlier? In Jacksonville, Illinois. So racism was one of the reasons that drove her to California because of her experience at McMurry. She was an activist in her heyday. I learned a lot of the things about being important and loving the skin that I'm in from my mom. This is my dad. He's a good old country boy from Texas. I get my twang sometimes and I can talk Texas if I need to. He's a Vietnam vet. He went to, prior to coming to California, all black segregated schools from, the time that just is the way it was back then. And he was born at home. There wasn't a hospital for black folks in his town. They had midwives, things of that nature. But he and my mother got together in about 1969. He was a cop, had just come back from Vietnam War. He was a cop with the Richmond Police Department. People have been telling me to write this story for forever, and I am one day. But my mother was a quasi Black Panther, and my father was a Richmond Police Department officer. How? He was sent in by his superiors and the FBI, who had come to a lot of Bay Area cities and asked their law enforcement agencies to spy on the Black Panthers at that time. And his reports back were they're feeding the kids and they're tutoring, and what can I tell you? That's all I know. And he was ultimately fired because of it. He's an ordained pastor. I'm a preacher's kid. This is my papa when my parents got divorced. This is my mother's second husband. He's from Texas as well, but he came to California much sooner than my dad did, so he's more of a California boy. He's a graduate of UC Santa Barbara, and he was one of the first graduating classes where ethnic studies and African American studies was even offered here in California. This is my husband and I. We've been married for almost 20 years. And in that time, we say that we've done everything right. We're homeowners. We, send our kids and pick very selective about the schools and the school districts that we live near to make sure that they get the proper education. We've worked, been employed. I've owned a couple of businesses. We've done what they've told us to do right. We have, 10 kids. And 3 out of those 10 kids, all boys, have experienced to one level or another the criminal justice systems. And 2 of them are not guilty. And so that happens in our community more times than often. Guess who this is? Emmett Till. This week he would have been 77 had it not been for a little white lie. So when I say we've done everything right, or at least seemingly so, we didn't raise our kids to be criminals, but sometimes the system criminalized them anyway. Trayvon Martin was criminalized for walking through his neighborhood at night with a hoodie on his head with some Skittles and Arizona drink. This is the tales of 2 of our sons who have been involved in the criminal justice system. This is Kenny Jr. He was 18 in 2000, and he was being kind of bullied. And he graduated from high school. He was special ed, not the fastest kid when it comes to picking up things, but the sweetest, kindest hearted person that I've ever met. And he was being bullied in his neighborhood by gang members, and so he got a gun to protect himself. And on a day when a rape took place not far from his neighborhood, he was picked up and brought to the scene of that crime, even though he didn't have the ability to even be in that neighborhood because he was walking. He did not have transportation, and he has been in prison since 2000 for a rape that he did not commit. This is my actual firstborn son. He was convicted of a crime about 2 years ago that he is guilty by association. So when us parents tell our kids you are guilty because of association, I, as a Black woman, have to tell my Black child that a white woman might not have to tell her children that. And so he was found guilty of a crime. Soon he'll be out, and hopefully part of his sentence will be overturned. We're working with some attorneys that are going to help us out with that. So they're my reason why I am associated with BLM. That's some of our kids, and they're our why, right? We have to show up for them. The reality is one life worth more than another, and in this country, it has shown to be that way. We bury our necks in a history of violence and brutality against people of color, and I refuse to be silent anymore. Reverend Meg Riley said that. This great just intellectual. If you haven't used or seen the documentary, I Am Not Your Negro, please, please, please use it. I love America more than any other country in this world, and exactly for the reason I insist on the right to criticize her perpetually. James Baldwin. Last quick story. So my sister decides, this is the girls trip. If you've heard about the movie, if you've seen it, it's, was okay. But my sister decided last year after the movie came out, this is what she wanted to do for her 45th birthday. And so there's a trailer there, and there are us this past couple of weeks ago in New Orleans. And there were 15 of us. So imagine 15 women being together for 4 days. That was kind of draining on me. I'm not a petty girl, but I can, yeah. So there were some stereotypes that came out of that experience. A black woman in my group said to a white friend who was in our group, so there were 15 of us, 14 were black and 1 was white. She said, you aren't white, you are black. Your first name, your last name is black. You grew up in a black neighborhood. You have a black best friend, and you date black men. Girl, you black. And I was insulted for her. I was insulted for the white friend who was with us, because I don't ever want someone to feel marginalized like I felt marginalized when I've been told you're smart for a black girl or you're pretty for a black girl. Those things bug me the wrong way. Another black woman said when a group of 7 Filipino women joined us on our bus trip, we were going to the swamps to see the alligators. One woman said, I know you guys aren't here for Essence Festival, and she was really excited saying this like she was right. One of the women came back and said, yeah, we're here for Essence. And they were 7 Filipino women. I was again mortified. I tell black folks all the time that we can't expect non-black folks to respect our hair, our brilliance, our everything if we're not capable of doing the same. So I blogged about this trip, and I got scolded the next morning because I wrote a blog about these comments, and I didn't put anybody on blast, and I didn't even think, because they were drunk half the time, that they would even, right? I can't stop being who I am because I'm on vacation. We were also at a bar, and there was a white bartender. My mom and I were standing there for quite some time. A young white lady walked up behind us, and she was then standing there for quite some time. The bartender automatically went to her first, and I was like, not today. So last few things, BLM Sacramento, there's a network, and then there are chapters. The network is just an umbrella. It is just an idea. It is just a hashtag. And I don't want to say just as if that isn't significant, because it propelled a movement that is extremely important, but it is a movement for Black liberation. Our chapter is a separate independent entity. We do work that is different from BLM Los Angeles, which is different from BLM Chicago. We all have our separate issues. Here are some pictures. We recently, the bigger picture on this screen is a billboard that the California Endowment helped us get up on a major billboard in an intersection in town that is of 7 of the 12 individuals we have fought for since our chapter's existence. That's radical. Right? We all went to see Black Panther together, and some of us dressed up. I'm the one with the big afro. Yeah. So this is, Brandon Smith, who is our recent person that has died in the city. Stephon Clark, we got the most press with. So it has been my honor to be with you guys here today. I hope that I connected some dots in a way that even when we do everything right, sometimes the oppression of the system that we are dealt with comes to us, and we have to face that oppressive nature. And my response to it is to be active, to be concerned about about social justice. My response is to make sure that my children are equipped to stand up in faces of challenges and not, cower, because it's so easy to do that. And then my also purpose is when I'm in spaces that are majority white, that I am intentional about inviting people to understand the importance of a conversation. Thank you, guys. Thank you.